Hey, they're saying they're not hearing the station.
Welcome to the Penn State Football Tailgate Show. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. I'm here with Kyle Leff, sports producer for Seven Mountains Media, and we're going to be talking about Penn State and Michigan State here on the show today. But as always, the story for Penn State football this season specifically is more about what's going on off the field than what's going on on the field. That's where we're starting today, Kyle. We're going to be starting with the fact that just probably 30 minutes before this show started.
Before we get to the coaching stuff,
Okay.
we are off the field ourselves, dude.
We're off. Okay.
We are off the field. We are not near a field right now.
Okay.
We are, in fact, on hardwood.
Yes.
Ish. We are here live at Legends Restaurant and Bar at the Penn State Hotel and Conference Center. Kyle F. Thomas Frank Carr on 99.5, 107.5 The Bus, Big Ten Country Legends, 137, 104.3. Streaming live on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. Penn State Tailgate Show is driven by Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships. And I guess the drive down to, where's Texas A&M College Station?
Yeah.
It's a pretty far drive from here. I'm guessing like 18 to 20 some odd hours.
Yeah, something like that. I've never driven to, why would I would never want to go to, I've never driven to Texas.
Yes.
For anyone who lives in Texas, it's not my cup of tea. But Mike Elko, Texas A&M head coach, has agreed to a contract extension with the Aggies. So Penn State has been, and we've been kind of couching this as there's some big swings out there for the Nittany Lions in their coaching search. And one of those big swings is off the board with Mike Elko, the guy who I think we've described as the best fit at Penn State, guy who's from the Northeast, has decided to stay with the Aggies. Of course, they're undefeated this season and steamrolling towards a college football playoff berth.
Well,
so that makes a lot of sense for him to do that.
they're currently down now. It had to be 10-3 against South Carolina as of the second ago because Lenora settled down. So they are now down, it seems, 9-3, should be 10-3. So, great start for the brand newly signed head coach.
Yeah. I wonder how that's always funny. Like when you don't have the contract extension and people don't know your money, and then it's like, give him time. Now that immediately once you're a top 5 head coach, everyone's like, now we expect perfection.
He's all paid and stuff.
Yeah, I know he doesn't care.
Well, you know who else might be getting paid soon?
Who's that?
A man who people in Happy Valley are familiar with, Mr. James Franklin. This morning, per reports, looks like he is starting discussion with Virginia Tech to sign as the next head coach of the Hokies.
They're starting the head coach mating dance. Is how it, National Geographic when the birds start dancing and they got their wings out and things like that, or they're a lot of chirping. I think there's much more. This is a much more interesting story to me. James Franklin, the way he's always worked, is just leverage the hell out of the situation.
Yes.
So, is it really like, hey, he's in and it's Virginia Tech, or is Virginia Tech leaking this information to put the pressure on James Franklin to sign?
Or is James Franklin putting it the pressure on other programs to get him to sign with them because I actually don't want to go there.
Right.
There's a whole lot of things. It's all political, and we don't do politics here on the show. We do sports.
Yeah, but it's an interesting situation from a number of things. I do want to touch on kind of the if of James Franklin going to Virginia Tech, and I just here's my problem is a lot of this information is agent laundered, right?
Yeah.
So this is agents saying things to reporters who then say them out on Twitter. And it's the way the information is put out is it's sent to a bunch of people, and who can tweet it the fast, who can copy and paste the fastest. And some people, I think Pete Thamel does a great job of sourcing information, but a lot of this stuff comes from the agent delivers the information. So it's from a source that it's a first source. In journalism, you talk about you need to have a primary source, directly knows the information, but it's not an unbiased source.
No.
So in these situations, I'm curious as how this Virginia Tech job goes, how all of those negotiations, because we've seen James Franklin negotiate not necessarily intentionally in public, but has been asked about those things.
Yes.
And has used his situation to then leverage Penn State for more things that he got here, including facilities, support for coaching staff, and off-field support staff, the analysts. All those things he, used those opportunities in the reverse of what we see this year to get Penn State to commit more money to the football program. I'm imagining that playbook didn't stay in his office in Happy Valley. I'm assuming he took that with him.
But speaking of people taking things from their offices, the New York Giants let go of Brian Daboll this week, and P. Chris notes in the chat here on Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel that right next to me is Brian Daboll, who was also spotted in Penn State gear this week. People chill out. His son was a grad assistant here with the football team, so he had Penn State gear and was wearing it the day after he got fired just because he wanted to wear something comfortable.
Yeah.
So chill out a little bit. But Brian Daboll, how you doing, sir?
I'm so tired of being discriminated against as a average-looking white man with a beard and a bald head.
You could do worse than a football head coach, though.
I mean, that's a profession. This is my face we're talking about. Like, I'm not getting head coaching money for my face.
That is true.
But I shared this earlier this week. Might as well do it now, seeing as P. Chris brought it up. I have some slides to compare that I don't think I look anything like Brian Daboll.
You and Brian Daboll do not look alike.
The face is entirely different. The structure of the lower face is entirely different.
For those listening live right now on the bus in Bigfoot Country Legends, there is a side-by-side of Thomas Frank Carr and Brian Daboll wearing a very similar-looking Penn State hoodie and both carrying a bunch of things. One looks like a man who just got fired from his job. Another man looks like he just finished up a home renovation of some kind.
I was looking at this later. I'm like, I'm not intentionally smoldering.
You are smoldering a little bit.
It's not
in that
intentional.
Photo,
I looking at it later, and I was like, I look like I'm trying really hard here. It was just really bright in the morning. It was when I was taking that photo.
You know what? You're having fun. And speaking of having fun, I want to shout out also a game going on west of us over in Acrisure Stadium. Notre Dame versus Pitt. Notre Dame is up 14-0 right now, and looks like they are driving down towards Pitt's end zone to go up 21-0. They have one touchdown by Jeremiah Love. Heinschel threw a pick six, and now looks like Notre Dame is going to possibly score again. So, to all of the Pitt fans out there, just know that this is happening right now, and everyone said, we don't care about this game. We don't need this game. You could have won this game, and that could have helped you a lot get into the college football playoffs that everyone's trying to get into.
Yeah.
Just noting that. I want to put that out into the universe right now before we get to Penn State and all the stuff going down, because we do have to discuss Penn State at some point.
Yeah, and we'll get to that in a little bit. I want to get back to the Elko thing and kind of the head coach conversation, but I do think it's interesting that, like, what I said to you pre-show. Yes. I don't want to say pre-game. Like, we're in the middle of the game right now. Pitt, 22, right? So they're ranked. So this is going to count as a ranked win for Notre Dame.
It will.
I don't know if I would count that as a ranked win for Notre Dame. But so this is always the thing every year with Notre Dame. On the flip side of, like, Pitt having an opportunity to beat the 9th-ranked team in the country, Notre Dame, they don't have a whole lot of ranked teams, and it's not like they have a strong schedule to begin with. And now, like, this feels like a freebie going up 14-0 to start this game.
They lost the two games early that were ranked against Texas A&M and Miami, but they've, of course, mounted a comeback and are now sitting here 9th in the nation. And so they're happy with where they're at because they're in the playoffs unless they lose, in which they're out. So if Pitt were to win, they could knock Notre Dame out of this. They could find themselves in the at-large conversation regardless of the ACC. But who am I to give logic to any sort of thing going on in college football, Mr. Thomas Frank Carr, sir? Who am I to do that?
Yeah. Let's get back to some of the conversation that people are thirsty for the news and the conversation about the head coaching search. I do think the Mike Elko news is kind of a big blow for Penn State, but it was also probably the least likely given the setup and situation of how successful his team has been and how much they, Texas A&M has a lot of money.
They have oil money in Texas.
They've been spending it, too, to put them in a good situation. So it felt like it was a long shot unless it was a fit thing where Elko wanted to leave. And so, like, I find this interesting in terms of we've talked about these, like, big swing candidates, and he was probably the best fit. The guy who made the most sense if there was going to be a top head coach in the country who's perceived to be eligible, that he would be a guy that would make sense. And now he's off the board as the first guy, I'd say, in that really like the consensus top three. Obviously, Kirk Cinetti was barely on the conversation point.
Matt Rule was in the conversation, but was he the best option? Not really, but he was there. The two of them each signed contract extensions. Now Elko gets his next extension. The real question is, who else is going to get extended because of Penn State? We now have 3 names with new contract extensions due to Penn State rumors. The next question is then what happens with Lane Kiffin and Florida, which is rumored to happen, which might spice up everything, because then all of a sudden the Eli Drinkowitz conversation of him going to Florida is off the table, but does he go to Ole Miss? There's a lot happening in the coaching search, and a lot of it's going to come down to how the next 2 weeks go, because the next 2 weeks decide over these next 3 games who gets into the playoffs, who is not. That may decide who goes where coaching-wise.
That's the biggest thing.
We're on the clock now.
Yeah, so nothing that's happened so far has been, I think, detrimental to Penn State in terms of nobody's chosen another job opportunity. They've chosen to stay in the current job that they have, which I think is a little bit different. So nobody's chosen Florida or Auburn or UCLA, and I don't know why I'm throwing UCLA in there. But they haven't chosen. Nobody's chosen an open job over Penn State. And so that, I think, is fine. And the guys that have chosen to stay where they are, the only one that I would say is a shocker would be Matt Rule. So most of the candidates that made sense, like the board and you know, our hot board over at bluewhiteillustrated.com, if you want to join us for $1, check out. We have I think it's a weekly update of the hot board, and Sean Fitz does a great job of updating, and not just with like the names and the horse race of the conversation where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He breaks it into, you know, a bunch of different categories. He's given a lot of couched information about like efficiency, program development, things like that. I think the guy that makes a lot of sense if it will work, and we haven't talked about, is Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. That is an opportunity where Alabama is such a pressure cooker job. And the guy that follows Nick Saban, like just that reality has always been made that feel like the least tenuous fit. Or excuse me, the most tenuous fit. And so until I think that one and a couple of the other top names have made decisions or have won or lost those games. So, you know, coming down the stretch, you got the Iron Bowl, obviously the SEC championship game. There's some opportunities for even a close win to a team that you're not supposed to have a close win over. These are, I guess I'm looking at those situations for Penn State to say, Elko it's a loss for sure. It's an expected, understandable one, but there are still some of those names out there that I think can work for Penn State, and should they have the opportunity to sign those guys, I think those would be exactly threading the needle of what Pat Kraft had set out to do, which was to find a coach that has more at least the arrow is perceived to be on the upward trajectory above flat. James Franklin, but from a program of like caliber. And I don't know where Alabama fits in this conversation. I would say they're probably still above Penn State without Nick Saban. At the same time, like there is like, it's not a lower tier program. It's not an up and coming coach that has to prove something yet. If you're Kalen DeBoer, who's at Alabama, who's won there, that kind of threads the needle. And that's just, I'm bringing up one of those people, you know, one of those coaches. There's a couple more out there. But I do find that to be, it's getting the feeling of it's getting uncomfortable for Penn State fans, because not only has it gone on over a month now, which we knew it was going to.
But it seems like there's no answer in sight.
It seems like there's no answer in sight and only bad news, because there's only one good thing that can be good news, which is they got their coach, it's done, it's over. But you were never going to get a sitting head coach during the season to choose to leave their team because the people that you're pursuing are pursuing a national championship. It's still a reality for them. So why would they go, you know what, I'm going to reset my opportunity when I only have like, you know, so many of these in my lifetime. I'm just going to quit now and go to Penn State because that's where I really want to be for whatever. That doesn't make any sense. Somebody even had brought up this, and we've gotten to like the craziest or the most outlandish of the questions. I saw this the other day somewhere. Somebody asked, would a coach who is about to go to the playoff but doesn't want to be there, leave their team before the playoff, like it's a bowl game, and then join Penn State and have somebody else finish the season for them?
It's a stretch.
I love the imagination. I love the pure-hearted belief, but no. No.
Well, we'll get to the coaching stuff more as we're going throughout the show. Penn State, of course, is in East Lansing today. The game day forecast brought to you here by W.R. Hickey Beer Distributor. In East Lansing today, it is 60. It is going to be like high 50s, low 60s basically the rest of the day. There's a chance of rain.
That's wild.
Rain throughout the rest of the day.
That makes me uncomfortable.
It makes me uncomfortable. It is nice. It's warmer there in East Lansing where Penn State is taking on Michigan State. By the way, Texas A&M is now down 16-3.
Oh.
So for those wondering at home, because apparently Marcel Reed fumbled the ball and it was a fumble recovery for a touchdown by Texas A&M. So now it is a 17-3 ball game in College Station
at the end
South
of the first.
Carolina, end of the first, up 17-3. Pitt is down 14-zip against Notre Dame. We'll get to the Penn State of it all and the Big Ten of it all coming up here on 99.5, 107.5 The Bus, Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3, and streaming live on the Blue Ocean YouTube channel. What's happening, Mr. Thomas Frank Carr, sir?
Well, first off, we got to talk about James Franklin for 1 second.
Okay.
The Virginia Tech thing. We can come back and talk about this, but I do think we need to talk about James Franklin and Virginia Tech.
Okay.
And how that, if that does happen, that that ACC situation playing your Syracuse Orange, how
Go
that
Cuse,
might be,
baby.
how
Go
that
Cuse.
all of that might affect Penn State's recruiting and the regional stuff. I do want to set that up before we go, but we haven't done this. I don't think we got to it last week. We need to make sure we get to your Syracuse second.
What's happening? Are we doing my Syracuse second?
We're doing your Syracuse second.
Right now?
Yeah. So
okay.
go.
Thank you. Okay. Syracuse.
And we're going to get to the open practice highlights here on the Penn State Coaches Show, brought to you by Tri-County Tag Services. I'm Thomas Frank Carr from Blue White Illustrated, and as always, you can check us out for just $1 to get a week's access to our insider information, front office discussions, Penn State football coach search, analysis, and more, including our weekly practice updates. It was a shorter viewing window than normal on Wednesday due to a shortened practice. However, we were still able to confirm several things during the open availability. Firstly, Nolan Rucci was back as the starting right tackle during the availability period. He lined up next to Anthony Donko at right guard, while top reserves TJ Shanahan and Cooper Cousins watched the drill from the sideline. Last week, Rucci was the top player in drills during our viewing window and then played the entire game. So the lean right now would expect Rucci to be starting today. Penn State has not made contingency plans for the backup quarterback behind Ethan Grunkmeyer obvious from a depth chart perspective, but when we go to practice, the answer seems fairly clear. If anything happens, the team will pivot to Liam Clifford, who will take over as a permanent Wildcat quarterback. Whew. Clifford took all the snaps with the developmental squad players under the supervision of assistant quarterback Trace McSorley, while freshman Beckham Kritza watched the drill from the sideline. Meanwhile, Grunkmeyer worked with the starting runners and receivers on the main field in front of the media. As always, there was a strong emphasis on getting Katron Allen and Nick Singleton the ball this week based on observations and swing passes into the flat during our open availability. The only other note was that all three Penn State primary backup runners, Corey Smith, Quentin Martin, and Cam Wallace, were in their own numbers and working with that top group, although the groups have been condensed with so few quarterbacks. After finishing up with the runners, Grunkmeyer shifted to working with the top receivers on the depth chart. This week, freshman Kobe Howard was with the top unit, while the rest of the depth chart worked on individual position drills along the sideline. Redshirt freshman Tyseer Denmark was in that group of receivers and tight ends who worked on positional drills. That does it for your Penn State practice update. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. More from the Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships Tailgate Show next.
There's a computer on as soon as you walk in, and
This is where I struggle, guys, admittedly. Are we acting like this Penn State defense was a complete train wreck for the bulk of the season? Because I'm not. I'm not there. Right? Like, Ohio State is just really good and beat them over the top. Like, it has been a season of, I think, like, honestly, exactly what Terry said. And there's a notion that, yeah, the pressures, right? But the pressures haven't gotten home all season. Like, that's been the whole issue. It's not that there's never pressure. It's that the pressure that they've had has always been a split second short of getting home. And not being able to get home has made this defense repeatedly vulnerable to quarterbacks that have been able to move with their legs to extend plays and or scramble. And that remained the case on Saturday, right?
Yeah.
And yes, I think that they flustered Mendoza more than other defenses have. Like there's absolute.
He completed.
It's not
he
like there
completed
wasn't a
53.
positive.
Yeah, he completed 53% of his passes when under pressure, 56 when blitzed. So that is significantly lower than his average completion percentage previously. So the pressure didn't get to sacks, but it did affect enough throws. Now, did he make game-winning plays when blitzed? Yes, he did. And so that's kind of the boom or bust here is like it's not all one thing. They were able to get pressure. They were able to force punts. They were not able to make it a complete shutdown where they won the game, or else we'd have a very different conversation about this, right?
I think so. And I mean, again, like it just boils down to, for me, really the same story. And I said this after the game, and I'll say it again. I mean, I don't think it's a bad defense. I think that the pressure off the edge, right? Not having Max Granville has damaged them to a certain extent, right? There has been an issue for this team and this defense for most of the season, but like on the whole, it has just been a defense that has been very, very, very. I mean, somebody just said it in the chat, like situationally vulnerable, and they've gotten beaten in those circumstances. I just don't think it's like on the whole a bad defense, but I'm just left in the same place, which is when the game was on the line and they had to get a stop, they couldn't.
Yeah,
and that's Iowa. The game was on the line. Could they get a stop? No. Northwestern, right? Like pre and post James Franklin, there's carryover to all of this, and they've gotten better, but still not able to finish it out.
Hey, how are you? How many in are you? I thought you were going to say I've drank a case already.
And you are here live on 99.5, 107.5 The Bus, Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3, and streaming live on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. Kyle F., Thomas Frank Carr, and the Penn State Tailgate Show, driven by Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships. Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships, celebrating more than 40 years of service to the community. Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships has a vehicle to fit your budget and transportation needs. Home of the $1,000 lowest price guarantee with 20 locations throughout Pennsylvania, and it is now time here at Legends Restaurant and Bar, the Penn State Hotel and Conference Center, to get into them key matchups. And the key matchup is not me versus Thomas Frank Carr, because that Syracuse second he did before we left for the break. But it is between two units-ish during this Penn State football game. I do not know what it is, sir. What is your key matchup for this game powered by Stalker Chevrolet?
My key matchup right now is me versus nobody having bought the wings here yet, because the wings last time we were here smelled amazing. But
I love wings. I love wings so much.
This week, the key matchup is the Penn State defensive line against the Michigan State offensive line. And there's a couple of ways I could put this, but let's just put it this way. The Michigan offensive line has been subpar all season long. They are one of the worst units in the Big Ten by statistics. They allow some of the most sacks in the Big Ten, and they also allow the most stops and tackles for a loss by percentage. Basically, 1 out of every 5 plays for the Michigan State offense goes for a tackle for loss or a tackle for no gain. So their run game, super inconsistent. Their passing game, under assault. This is the opportunity for a dominant performance for the Penn State front seven. So the Penn State front seven versus the Michigan State offensive line. If they pull that off, then this is going to be a runaway for the Nittany Lions. This is going to be an easy game for Penn State football on the road, because I think offensively they're going to have some things to click, and defensively they haven't had one of those performances since the non-conference where they've truly just been able to impose their will on the opposing team, and it wasn't even for all of those in the non-conference season. So I think that psychologically, Penn State needs that.
They need a win.
They need a get right game.
Yes,
they have been through it this year, and to have that Michigan State game, I want everyone to just don't dismiss a blowout here. Because yes, it's Michigan State, but Penn State's also a 3-16.
They are.
And so if they are able to dominate this game, that is a sign of progress that we have not seen from them so far this year. And I guess that's my opinion of like what can happen in this game. But it is obviously, for this team, a tenuous thing at best, where if it were another season, I'd say Penn State's going to dominate this game. Michigan State does not have an opportunity to win because their offensive line is so bad. Now,
Yes.
that is the opening opportunity for Penn State.
But
Penn State's coming off, or excuse me, Michigan State is coming off of a bye week. And they just switched quarterbacks.
they did. Oh, they keep switching quarterbacks from Chiles to Milivojevec. They keep bouncing back
Is that
and
how
forth.
it is you say it?
I believe I haven't looked at his name, but I believe it's Milivojevec.
Oh, I've been going.
Give me 2 seconds, and I can actually give you.
I've been
an
going with
exact name.
Milivojevec. Milivojevec.
Whatever you're saying is very much so not right.
Oh, okay.
I will. I
anyway,
can tell you that Alessio Milivojevec.
Milivojevec. I see. This is the thing. Is like from an Italian and Irish background, my family. I don't have a lot of Eastern Europeans around me. So say it again.
Alessio Milivojevec.
Milivojevec. I would have not in a million years gone with that. I feel like I'm better with Polynesian names because they're phonetic. That looked like an
There's a lot
a
of
soup of letters.
well.
To me.
I am a huge soccer fan, and I am used to the Serbian, Slovenian, Slovakian names, very Eastern European. I'm used to just those.
All right.
So I've got that covered, but you have covered the fact that he is not a running quarterback.
No.
Aiden Chiles, their now backup quarterback, is a running quarterback who does get out of the pocket, but Alessio, we'll call him, likes a good pocket to throw from.
Yeah, A-Dog, he looks like he can move a little bit, but he is very much a pocket passer. And so this is the thing that I think after a bye week, there is an opportunity for them to use both of these guys because we've seen teams do that. And this is the thing, like, if you're a good team, you don't need to use two quarterbacks. And it's preferable, in my opinion, and I think everyone agrees, that you don't use two quarterbacks. However, it is a 3-6 team versus a 3-6 team. So the best plan is out the window. It's the plan that is going to get us a win. A-Dog over here, 11. He has shown a propensity to throw the ball accurately under pressure. So given what we just talked about with their offensive line, they need a fixer. They need some sort of equilibrium for them to find when it comes to how they can operate this offense, because Nick Marsh and Amari Kelly, it's a good receiving core for Michigan State. Now, it's not Ohio State, but it is one that can be dangerous. And we've seen Penn State's secondary, especially the corners, they've given up some stuff this year. We didn't expect them to do that, and even Davian Collins and Elliott Washington, both those guys have given up some big plays.
A.J. Harris gave a touchdown to Wildy.
Yep. So you have some susceptibility there, and if you are going to try to attack this offensive line, you do put yourself in a situation where you could have a one-on-one with some big play receivers like Nick Marsh, and that's a way that Michigan State makes this a ball game.
Yes.
Is they can big play their way. It's the inverse of last week. So if Penn State could hit some big plays last week against Indiana, they could be in the game. Same thing this week. If Michigan State hits some of those big plays, they can overcome their offensive line. But that makes Milivojevec, did I say it right?
Milivojevec.
I'm
going to keep giving you
Milo
your name.
Kunis.
Say
so
Alessio.
bad.
Alessio.
Yeah, A-Dog. He's going to be very good at doing that if what we saw on film from him is consistent. And that's the biggest variable. It's not that you could play both quarterbacks. To me, the biggest variable is what happened against Minnesota. And you saw flashes of it early in the season. Is he actually that good under pressure? Because that is not a sustainable thing normally. And so if he is, not only does Michigan State have a chance to win this game, they may have found their quarterback of the future in like a tentpole of their program. Like that's a big deal.
He's a freshman for, I believe, Naperville. So he's young.
Yeah.
And so he's got longevity for them. So it's the question of, can he do it forever? Yeah. I guess we're going to start finding out, or Michigan State fans start finding out today. But what we're going to find out here is if Texas A&M goes down by 3 scores. Because currently South Carolina has the ball at the 23 and is about to score again to make it 24-3 over Texas A&M. So it looks like Lenora Sellers is back. They're 3-6. South Carolina.
Is there a clause in his contract that says you can't lose to South Carolina?
There might be. We're going to find out.
What did the reporting say today? I should go back and double check that. Did it say that they were about to? They agreed upon it, or
it was? I believe it was agreed upon to make him one of the top 10 highest paid coaches in college football.
Agreed upon doesn't mean signed.
Yes.
Agreed upon doesn't mean signed.
So I guess, and also for those wondering at home, another 3-6 team in the Big Ten. Wisconsin is tied 7-all with Indiana right now with 3 minutes left in the second quarter. I believe it's Carter Smith, their quarterback for Wisconsin, 7 for 11, 91 yards, and a touchdown on the day.
Interesting.
So it looks like Indiana not as great as everyone thought. They almost, of course, they won by 3 last week here in Happy Valley.
Yeah.
Now they're tied against Wisconsin, who everyone has thrown to the scrap heap in terms of football.
Yeah.
So,
and rightfully so, but at the same time,
rightfully so.
I should say they have a Big Ten win, so that's part of it.
Well, it is what it is. What it is here on the show is we are here live at Legends Restaurant and Bar, the Penn State Hotel and Conference Center. I am a wings person. You mentioned the wings. I love me a good wing, T. Frank.
Yeah.
And I know you do as well. We love good food. We enjoy good food here. Is that a fair assumption to make?
I'm a dry rub guy. Or
a
barbecue.
dry rub guy.
Either one. Dry rub or a Memphis barbecue, which is a dry rub, but I also like barbecue wings. I'm not a hot sauce guy. I think anything that's just butter and hot sauce, it's not really for me. I like more exotic flavors than that.
Okay. Well, there's a lot going on here at Legends Restaurant and Bar and at the Gardens, which is right across from us here. It's literally next door. They have a Christmas Eve brunch buffet going on 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Gardens. So, of course, Christmas Eve on the 24th. New Year's Day, they've got a champagne brunch buffet, again, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. There's also Black Friday prime rib buffet that's coming up in 2 weeks.
I do love prime rib.
I do love prime rib. That is 6 to 9 p.m. at the Gardens on Black Friday. So, the day after Black Friday, we're going to be back here again because that's the final Penn State away game of the regular season.
Do you think they're going to have any leftovers for us?
I think we can put in a special request just for you.
Just the leftovers. I'm fine.
Yes.
I don't need to make a new prime rib.
Brian Dayball, for you, will do anything here on the show.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And we are here live again, 99.5, 107.5 The Bus, Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3, and streaming live on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel on the Penn State Tailgate Show, driven by Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships, where we're going to head on over right now to the Coach's Corner, here from interim head coach Terry Smith, powered by Happy Valley Adventure Bureau.
Who has time for press conferences? That's why we've set aside the most important stuff for you. It's Coach's Corner, powered by Happy Valley Adventure Bureau.
Penn State lost a heartbreaker 1 week ago, with the Indiana Hoosiers claiming victory after an acrobatic snag from standout wide receiver Omar Cooper Jr. Even with the incredible play in mind, interim head coach Terry Smith saw positives in the way the secondary handled the number 2 team in the nation.
Yeah, I thought the secondary played extremely well throughout the game. They were really competitive. When you watch the game as a whole, we covered really, really well. Even the 2-minute situation, Indiana made the plays. They were tough 50-50 plays, and you had the one play on the sideline with a Davian Collins, and then obviously the game-winning touchdown. Highly contested plays.
Ethan Grunkemeyer beat out Fernando Mendoza for passing yards in the game, 219 to 218. The redshirt freshman threw 1 touchdown and 1 interception, yet Terry Smith saw what improvements Grunk made from week to week.
We started to throw the ball down the field, and he gave us a chance. He fought us back into the game. I thought his growth continues to get better. We have a quarterback for the future, and, we're going to continue to develop and push the ball down the field and give him opportunities to make plays. We have to clean up a couple things. A couple of the screens are, we want to get the ball out in front as opposed to on the back hip, just make it a little easier catch and run type situations. But those are things we'll clean up in practice.
Another big riser, Nick Singleton. The senior had 3 touchdowns against Indiana, 2 on the ground and 1 in the air. I'll just let Coach Smith tell you the good news.
Yeah, I think Nick is back full confident. It started in the Ohio State game for him. He had some good runs, some good performances in the Ohio State game, and then obviously a 3-touchdown show this past weekend. Hopefully we have the old Nick back, for this week. So we're going to continue to try to get him the football, as well as Katron. last week I think I mentioned maybe to you guys, the goal was to get those guys the ball 35 times. We got them 36 touches, and it gave us a chance for victory.
Penn State and Michigan State are both searching for their first Big Ten win on the season. Who will get to that 1-6 spot? Well, it may come down to the receivers, PSU's transfers, and one in particular for the Spartans.
They threw for a lot of yards last week, so, we get some film. They have a tremendous receiver in the Marsh kid. He's an all Big Ten kid. He's competitive. He's big. He's strong. It seems like every week we're playing, top-level receivers, so it'll be a challenge because there's just not a lot of film on them. We do have film on all the other positions, so we feel like we can take advantage of their front. Key to our defense is pressure, and we're going to bring the pressure this week.
That was your Penn State Coaches Corner. More from the Tailgate Show in a moment.
So let's dive into this. Just in general, Fitz, what did you think of the change at halftime? And we're here again talking about something Terry Smith had mentioned for 2.5 weeks now, and it doesn't happen in the first half, and finally it happens in the second half. What's going on in your mind?
You're looking at an offense that has been sort of stamped down by Andy Kotelnicki and what he likes to do, and we've seen it for how many weeks, and he's just not comfortable throwing the ball down the field for turnovers specific reasons. Like that's the big thing, right? I mean, whether you have an actual deep threat or not, which is debatable, obviously,
right?
Probably doesn't matter as much. But to me, it's the threat more than anything. It is the exact, I don't want to say opposite, but it's a parallel of what we talk about with the threat of a running quarterback. You're trying to manipulate the numbers to make things work for you. That doesn't mean that you hit every downfield shot. That doesn't mean that you throw it every time you have a guy that's, running a downfield route. It just means that they have to account for it now. And that safety is so important in this game today. When you take a look at the threat of a running quarterback, okay, if the safety's in the box, the threat of a running quarterback, pauses him a little bit longer and opens up Nick Singleton for a 60-yard run. Okay, yeah, you see all this stuff sort of play out in front of you, and you just want to shake it because it's like been right there for you. And T-Frank, that's been kind of, this is your therapeutic to the sort of voodoo doll right now. You're like, it's right there. And finally you get to see it. And I think Terry Smith has said it the last couple of weeks, and I don't know if Andy just continued to view him as another assistant asking him what to do, or if he viewed him as the head coach telling him what to do. Like, I think that Terry had some words that were very directive, and that opened up a little bit. They threw it downfield twice right after halftime.
Yep.
One was picked. You live with those things, especially when you're like stuck in the mud as much as this one is. So I was happy to see it. I think it was a directive when somebody realized that, hey, interim head coach still means head coach, and I think that matters. So it was fun. It just made things more interesting. I mean, this is the least interesting offense we've watched for a long time.
That's saying something,
Shiraka. Yeah, I mean, it's just like...
Yeah. This has been 2020 COVID sort of offensive game plan where they don't trust anything. They don't have anything that they want to do. Nate, this conversation about... Oh, no.
Oh, no. Hey, can I jump in with one more thing here?
Sure.
It was never about Tasir Denmark and Kobe Howard. It was never about those
Thank
two.
you.
It was about expanding yourself down the field and opening everything else up for everyone. Because Trevor Pena had 6 catches for 99 yards. Trevor Pena is not a deep threat. He had a wonderful catch and run. What was 43 yards or something like that. And he's done that a couple of times this year.
Penn State Tailgate Show, driven by Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships, live at Legends Restaurant and Bar at the Penn State Hotel and Conference Center. Kyle F. Thomas Frank Carr on 99.5, 107.5 The Bus, Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3, and streaming live on the Blue by Illustrated YouTube channel. Mr. Thomas Frank Carr, sir. We discussed the Penn State defense quite a bit because the idea of getting to Alessio Milivojevec, the quarterback, or A-Dog, as we're calling him here on the show.
Thank you.
How does that work? We discussed them.
Yeah.
Let's flip the other side of the ball. The Penn State offense. They put up 24 points against this Indiana team, number 2 in the nation. So they showed some positivity in the game. Ethan Grunkemeyer threw the ball a little bit, technically out through Fernando Mendoza by 1 yard. So that was a thing he did, 219 to 218.
Yeah.
Was it Was it a fluke? Was it real? What did you see last week that's going to translate to this game here for the Penn State offense as a whole?
Yeah, I think it was a good performance, and I don't want to go too high or too low on that. It was a solid, positive performance that put them in a position to win. That being said, the play-action throws were all basically the same throw.
They were.
It was the same play. So it was not like he suddenly was operating a full-throated offensive playbook with all these different complex passing schemes. That's the point of what they want to do, is they want to run the ball and play action.
Yeah.
And that is a winning strategy if you can continue to develop play-action concepts that allow the quarterback to get open pictures. And this is another thing I think about this Michigan State defense. There's a lot of busted coverages. So when we talk about, and you heard Joel Klatt in the Ohio State game say the picture for the quarterback is bad for the Penn State offense, meaning when he hits his back foot, the end of his drop, and he's looking at his first read. If it's a one-read play, that player's not open. If it's a high-low progression, or if it's you're reading one player to see which one of your players are going to be open, neither of them or none of them are open.
Yes.
There's no clean and easy win either by the receivers or by the offense. And truthfully, I think we've seen that if you get these guys open, they're decent receivers.
They'll make plays.
Kyron Hudson still struggles. I think that is where you're seeing Kobe Howard get on the field more. That was a positive sign of development for this team. And so those are some of the things I think that can change this week. Again, is you heard Terry Smith say that he was a better blocker than he thought he was going to be, which goes into what we talked about before. If they're the dumb idea, and the dumb by meaning simple.
Yeah.
They want to have their blocking receivers out there, so they're going to have Kyron Hudson out there instead of Kobe Howard.
Yes.
But if Kobe Howard's a good enough blocker, then he can play at any part of the game, not just in the 2-minute warning or passing situations, and you're not going to have a dead giveaway. So that's a step forward in the progress, and I think this week we have more of an opportunity to see what Ethan Grunkmeyer is about because Michigan State, on the flip side, has a bad pass rush.
They do.
Their pressure rate is one of the lowest in the Big Ten. So basically, if you were to say on every single play, one player gets pressure, and it doesn't have to be like a good pressure, right? Just like you were able to affect the quarterback in some small way. That is awful. That means three quarters of your defensive line is doing nothing on every single play. So Grunkmeyer should have more time this week, and there shouldn't be the ambient game pressure of playing the number one or number two team in the country. So I hope that they are going to trust him more early in the game to throw the ball, and not that it has to be a game led by Ethan Grunkmeyer, but there would just be less emphasis on screens and RPOs that are trying to take advantage of numbers rather than talent or scheme.
And there is one piece of last week's game that I think will translate to this week for this Penn State offense. That is he finally appeared. He has been caught in a cloud of nothingness and arise. Nick Singleton.
Yes.
He does.
Yeah.
He's back.
Is he?
My gosh. He had 71 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns and a touchdown catch as well. I don't know if it's going to translate over completely, but he did things. He did things to you, Frank.
Yeah.
Nick Singleton ran the ball well. He ran fast, and that was the point, is they said, hey, we're going to give you more of an opening, and then just go. Like the touchdown catch.
Yeah.
I think he got hit by a player and spun a little bit.
Yeah.
And then looked and was like, I'm still not down?
Yeah.
And then he just took off.
I was quite happy for Nick and for Penn State fans to watch him run. And honestly, I like good process. I like good football. So watching the way – and here's the thing. There is a kind of a tendency or a knee-jerk reaction to go, well, all you had to do is run in a straight line.
Yeah.
And so he isn't Katron Allen, and he's not going to be juking people out at the point of attack. But what he did to get in those situations, he had to read the defense and react and anticipated where the opening was going to be at times and was able to set up blocks. One of his biggest weaknesses is he has been unable to understand leverage and how momentum works and how to set up his offensive linemen for better blocks and success. And he did that in a big way.
Finally.
Against one of the best teams in the country by record.
Yeah.
And my question is this week is, do we see it again? Because
real good question.
It is something that, I don't think that, again, like A-Dog, like Big A over on the quarterback for
Michigan State.
one-game sample sizes make me very nervous. So I do think there is a reality where he has to do it again this week. And Michigan State's defense, while not good, there are some things that will cause him to do that, to cut back, to have to see the field. It won't just be painfully open. If there's one area of this defense that does have some teeth, it's their run defense that will force you to be a guy that has to play the position and not just be an athlete that's going to out-athlete everybody. So that's a small pressure test to see because, the stakes for Penn State specifically, they have to win all these games to get to a bowl game.
They do.
And I do want to talk about that a little bit here. So first off, Stephen Light here on the YouTube channel says, appreciate the pregame coverage. Stephen here.
Shout out, Steven.
Steven's always here.
Oh,
Steven is he's out on the season so far, which is a bummer because he's one of our regulars, and I think he's generally like a very positive force on the YouTube channel. He's here in spirit. I appreciate him gutting through what is a disappointing season to him. We also have a celebrity in our midst.
Oh, who is the celebrity?
From Knoxville, Luke McCombs is on the YouTube channel.
Long lost cousin?
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with it, though. We're definitely saying this is just Luke McCombs. This is his burner account. He wanted to get in on the conversation about the head coaching search that we had at the beginning of the show. He's saying if you want big value, and then he goes to a lot of the guys on Penn State's list, Alex Golish, Bob Chesney, Major Applewhite, and then he says if you want to go and you want to punk Ohio State, Lane Kiffin is the guy.
Oh boy!
Here's the thing: I like of the coaches we've talked about that are kind of like out there. Lane Kiffin's offense, it produces.
It produces is putting it mildly.
Yeah, and it's done it at multiple stops at this point. And it's shown resiliency in the SEC to be able to continue to put up yards
and numbers
for quarterbacks and receivers.
The problem
Big
is,
deal.
Yes, but his defenses that he's a part of don't seem to be superb.
Right.
And the SEC is a conference that is very offense forward.
So
and the Big Ten seems to have a lot more, Iowa, for instance, is a defense first team.
Is that a resources problem? That's my question. Ole Miss, is that a resources problem, or is that a Lane Kiffin coaching focus problem?
That is the question. So if Lane Kiffin is to be brought in, do you bring in a very strong defensive coordinator? Do you keep a Jim Knowles, who does have a really strong identity? Has it worked out yet? No.
That would be like granola and gravel.
Yes.
Putting those two together.
Exactly.
That'd be very interesting.
But that's the point is does something like that do a strong coordinator on the defensive front who gets to basically just be the guy for the defense, and Lane Kiffin doesn't touch it because he wants it to work well enough.
That's absolutely what you need to have is the institution of Penn State having defense in its DNA.
Yeah.
That has to be what carries the conversation and give him the resources to have somebody, as you said, the head coach on the defense to just take that and make it great.
Yes.
I'm interested in how that would play out. I don't think it's likely.
Apparently Florida has already agreed a contract with Lane Kiffin. I don't know how much I believe it because there's still time left, and he could also get the job at Ole Miss, which is becoming an even bigger dumpster fire because of Brian Kelly now suing
LSU.
LSU, yes, because of LSU and Brian Kelly things. It's getting more hectic and crazy and more unlikable for any coach to want to go there.
Yeah. Do they have an athletic director right now? They have an interim.
They have an interim athletic director. I believe he has been named the athletic director now.
Okay.
But a part of this is also Brian Kelly is now suing because LSU is claiming that we're not going to get into this. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of legal jargon on the fact that apparently LSU is saying things, Brian Kelly is saying things, that he said, she said of these two organizations. And it's basically, do you believe the government of Louisiana or do you believe a now fired head coach who might not be actually fired? It's a very interesting discussion that we're not going to have here on the show because we are here to talk about teams that are playing in the basically other side of the U.S.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So Penn State.
Other border.
Yeah, other border, the Canadian border this
Canadian
time.
border.
So Michigan State against this Penn State offensive line. I wanted to ask you about this because the O-line for Penn State has been very up and down this year. We've discussed them a lot.
Yep.
Discussed pieces of the offensive front. Can you look at for this game in terms of how they played last week, going into now with a little bit of momentum, I guess you could say? Because, yes, Penn State lost to Indiana, but it wasn't the 38-0 drubbing that
Yeah, and the
we thought
offense
it could
functioned
be.
really well.
They functioned well,
Yeah.
and again, the offense did everything they could in terms of just like a fight in terms of where they are level-wise to that game, and they were 1 inch of an Omar Cooper Jr. incredibly acrobatic catch away from winning the game.
Yep.
So be that as it is, with all of this in mind, what does this Penn State offensive front have to do this week? Because you mentioned that Nick Singleton may not have as many easy holes this week.
Yeah.
But can they still dominate or do things in a positive way to get him and Keyshawn more wiggle room?
Yeah, dominate's a hard word for that group because I think fundamentally I don't think they have the talent to dominate. That's a tough thing to say because I think Venga Ioane is going to be a top 50 pick in the draft.
He's first round pick.
Drew Shelton has the ability to start at the next level, and Anthony Donko is highly talented. Could be a first-round draft pick if he could stay healthy and have like a good career in college. So they do have talent, but they're not playing like that this year necessarily outside of Ioane. So there's a path there, but I struggle with that because of their execution and their mental focus this year has not been great.
No.
And that's a real bummer for a group that's basically all veterans.
Yeah.
They can still get it done today. So pass protection was good last week. They were able to open up some holes for the offense. Now, the run game wasn't that 160-yard run kind of skewed things, but I don't know necessarily that they're in a situation where even last week they dominated on the ground and opened up a bunch of holes. The Indiana front, if there's one thing they do, they're aggressive and they may have over-pursued at times. I don't see that from this linebacker group. So it's an earn-it sort of game, and I think it'll be like 4.8 yards per carry, sort of like enough to get the job done all day long. I don't see them dominating up front. Now, again, Penn State's athletes can rip off some big plays. That has been That has been something that's happened for them this year. So I think it has to be more on the skill players to do that over the offensive line. Now, the wild card, if I could.
Yes.
The wild card is this might be a week where you see more Liam Clifford.
So I was going to ask about Liam Clifford, and an extension of him is the tight ends. Those are the two I lumped together at this point because they're the wild cards just across the board. So Liam Clifford, get to him first. We'll do tight ends afterwards. So Liam Clifford, we could see more of him in what regard?
So that Wildcat quarterback position is, I've said this before, it's kind of the mirror image. It's the same thing as the Michigan State situation. It's not like a great idea.
Yeah.
But if you're a bad team trying to get a win and you're trying to leverage any way that you can, having an athletic player under center to take snaps and try to run the option plays in Andy Kotelnicki's scheme, that's not the worst thing. We have seen it work against Iowa. We have seen that idea work. And if you're sacrificing your fourth wide receiver, and I say for the potential of injury, then that's fine. So that might be something that can help the offensive line. Again, those things are about taking pressure off the offensive line from being perfect on every play and giving them some wiggle room. However, last week against Indiana, the option game in general, Indiana has proven, and I was talking to somebody about this week, just in a casual conversation. The options in Andy Kotelnicki's offense, run pass options and the read options. Teams have figured out how to put it in a box.
Yes.
They have found a way to box it in and make those things not work. So you don't want to, again, this is me saying you don't want to rely on those things. But if you can use them as a tool instead of a defensive mechanism, which is what I think they've been using, a crutch, a defense, to try and get something to work that isn't working, instead of using them as an offensive weapon to generate something you want out of a look that you think is good. Selectively, not all the time, I think that it's a possibility.
Yes. And jumping from Liam Clifford to the tight ends, apparently Tyler Warren was back in the building this week. The Colts are on the bye right now, so he had the week off. Apparently Tyler Warren came back. The leading, I believe, tight end receiver in terms of reception yards so far this season because he's dominating for the Colts, and they're a great team. Apparently he was back in the building, helping out across the board. The tight ends have been very up and down this season.
Yeah.
The whole team has been up and down, but we've had games where Luke Reynolds has had 70 yards. There's games where they've not had a catch. Yeah. So what can we look at for the tight ends this week? Is there a way to get them involved to some extent, almost as the foil for Ethan Grunkemeyer, where they're the safety valve like Tyler Warren always really was for Drew Aller, where it's like, problem, I'm here, give me 8 yards.
So the problem, and yes, I think there's going to just be more plays and more opportunity this week. So if we're getting now into the tight ends are involved, then it's a blowout for Penn State. They're gonna blow out Michigan State because last week we saw them have a functional passing attack. It was a good passing attack. It was an exciting performance in the second half, right? Trevor Pena had 99 yards, I want to say.
Something like that. He
Something
was
like
just shy of 100.
Just shy of 100. This offense does not have room to have 3 guys get 100 yards. So what's your definition of involved? So
25-30.
Sure. Yeah, you can have a couple of those guys get those plays. The problem has been, and this is kind of the sliding scale of what you're looking for from the tight ends. Luke Reynolds was playing a lot early in the year, and his blocking was struggling, and then he was having some issues with confidence at the catch point, where he was really good at that in his young career. He is kind of in a Mike Gesicki situation of maybe he got the yips like this year, but he's super talented. But he's taken a step back in the offense. Andrew Rappelier has replaced him in a lot of these packages as the better blocker and as the guy that's kind of playing with a good rhythm right now. So you lose a little bit of that explosiveness. So then you're down to are they going to catch 4 passes total in this game? And then you look in the stat sheet and you got maybe 60 yards total from the tight ends, and no one thinks it was a big impact. But that's what this offense is. It's going to be 35 carries for the running backs, and then you got another 25-ish because if they get to 66 plays, that's a good day, right?
Yes.
So then we're talking about 30 targets overall, maybe, because you might have some carries from some other people, you might have some other option runs. There's not that much. We keep talking about what about this? What about this?
But
what
there's
about
only
this?
so much to go around.
Yeah, as Nate Bauer said, you can't do all the things that they say they want to do in a game because you don't have enough plays.
But T. Frank.
No, it'd be fun. It'd be fun if everyone loves numbers and stats. I love stats. But to me, this is a receiver forward offense this year. They've been trying to, and their offense is kind of built around those receivers now catching the ball over the middle of the field. Robert says, just parked and ready to walk in for Terry Smith's first win. We'll be looking forward to your postgame. Thanks, Robert. Yeah, if you want to join us, we got the Penn State football tailgate show now, and then we got the postgame show. We go our separate ways. We got different postgame shows.
We do different postgame shows.
Mine's immediately afterwards, and yours is an hour afterwards?
We follow up Steve Jones, Jack Ham, and the crew on their postgame, so we're right after them. So we're going to be right after you.
Yeah.
So we hop on after you hop off. You,
2 hours
Steve,
of
Jack.
postgame.
You guys all wrap up. We hop on afterwards. We extend it out a little further for you to give you a little bit more action there.
Yeah.
But we're going to get into more Penn State stuff, more discussion, go around the Big Ten, coming up after the break here on 99.5, 107.5 The Bus, Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3, streaming live on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel, Kyle F., Thomas Frank Carr, at Legends Restaurant and Bar at the Penn State Hotel and Conference Center on the Penn State Tailgate Show, driven by Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships. And when we get back, we'll do around the Big Ten. But first, it's This Week in Penn State Sports, powered by Miller's Hoagies.
It's more than just football at Penn State. Here's This Week in Penn State Sports, brought to you by Miller's Hoagies.
Wrestling, hockey, and basketball, oh my. Penn State Wrestling returned to action last night in the Bryce Jordan Center, where it kicked off its 2025-26 season against the Oklahoma Sooners. The Nittany Lions are searching for their 15th title in program history. Cale Sanderson's crew is back in action next Sunday in the Black Knight Invitational. Hear that on Wowie Radio. Both women and men's ice hockey were in action last night here in Happy Valley. The women took on the Syracuse Orange, the men the Michigan Wolverines. Women's hockey puck drop was at 1 o'clock today, while the men are in action at 6 p.m. tonight. Hear that game on 93.7 3WZ. Men and women's basketball also find themselves in play over the weekend, but on different days. Mike Rhodes and the men tipped off a short while ago in Philadelphia against LaSalle. Hear that on It's Pop Radio. Carolyn Keeger's group is in action tomorrow on It's Pop Radio at 2 p.m. against St. Joseph's, also in the city of brotherly love. Defending NCAA champion women's volleyball is 5 games away from the end of the regular season. Katie Schumacher-Colley and volleyball are set to take on the Ohio State Buckeyes tomorrow in Rec Hall for Military Appreciation Day. Safe to say the big sports season has arrived in Happy Valley. For a full broadcast schedule for all of Penn State sports, head to 7mmsports.com. That's This Week in Penn State Sports. Back to the Tailgate Show in a moment.
Give me your prediction.
31-17. All of us picked Penn State. And,
oh, boy.
Yeah. I'm going to leave it at that. that's really interesting to me that all of us pick Penn State. That seems like that's going to come back to haunt us to some degree, especially this season. But I do feel like we saw some momentum and some growth by Penn State's defensive line last week, and maybe as far as Knowles and what works, they're figuring some things out. So there's no reason to think that they can't continue to get some tackles for loss, a handful of sacks, and really put Michigan State behind the sticks. I don't think it'll be the 7 or so that Minnesota had, but that momentum has to continue. It has to continue, and you would think that, at least when you look at their remaining opponents, Michigan State's the best to continue that momentum, consistency, and confidence, maybe as much as anything. And then I like the fact that Michigan State has been, for Penn State, I like the fact for Grunkmeyer maybe, that Michigan State, at least on the defenses that Penn State's faced this year in the conference, is certainly the worst when it comes to average yards per catch and things like that. So there should be availabilities there to take care of that. I would say 7 to 12 yard range, right? Which we haven't seen a ton this year. The defenses he's faced so far in Iowa, Indiana, and Ohio State are substantially better with that. So you would think that they'd be able to open up things, but still got to get those 30+ touches to Nick and Katron. 1 or 2 breaks it should help a long way. But again, I'll just come back to the fact that everyone's picking Penn State in 2025. That's worked out well for everybody.
Fitz, what is your thought?
And we are here live. Kyle left, Thomas Frankar on 99.5, 107.5 The Bus, Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3. Streaming live on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel here at Legends Restaurant and Bar at the Penn State Hotel and Conference Center. And T. Frank, there's a lot going on holiday season-wise. So if you've got a holiday party coming through and you want to use Legends Restaurant and Bar or the Penn Stater in general, they accommodate parties of any size. Book it early because the holiday season's busy and crazy and hectic. So do it earlier than later. They also have a wreath decorating going on with Santa at the Gardens on December 14th. So that's coming up in 1 month's time, and we are hanging on out here. And before we go around the Big Ten, I do believe, Mr. Thomas Frankar, sir, there is something special out now. No, it is not my first LP on SoundCloud. Instead, it is the availability report. What is going on?
Yeah, so we're just pulling it up now, so I've got to make sure we have it available here for you on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel as well. The biggest news I see is Antoine Belgrave Shorter. He's now listed as out, and A.J. Harris is listed as questionable.
Okay.
So that's a big deal, to have your number 1 corner as potentially unavailable and your number 2, let's say number 2 safety, as potentially unavailable as well. So that's something that I think that the secondary, that's a big part of the conversation today, where we might have an updated conversation about what's going on with the Nittany Lions against Nick Marsh.
Yes. So that is what's happening in terms of the team. So Belgrave Shorter, very interesting.
Let me run through.
Yeah, run through it again. Run through one more time.
Little finicky.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to read it yet, so we're doing this live here.
Yes.
And we were having some audio issues, so I was just a little distracted here. AJ Harris and Antoine Belgrave Shorter are the main ones. This is so long because they've got literally everyone.
A laundry list of names. You've got Antoine Belgrave Shorter.
I think that's it.
Owen Wafel's still out. Chaz Coleman's still out. Jackson Smolik's still out. Everyone's still out.
Yeah. And I think for Michigan State, I think that it's kind of the same thing.
Theirs is less long because they have people out for the season.
Yeah.
While Penn State doesn't have it.
They refuse to put anyone out for the season. So those are the two big ones this week. So Antoine Belgrave Shorter and AJ Harris, and so 2 things are true here. Questionable. We've seen guys that have been questionable play. We've seen them not play. So that is truly up in the air for a little bit. So Greg Pickle, he's at the stadium right now for Blue White Illustrated, and he has an eye on the warm-ups. So if you want to go to the Blue White Illustrated message board in our pregame thread, he'll have an idea of, is A.J. Harris in sweatpants? Is he dressed and warming up? All those things. And then, kind of understand heading into kickoff what's actually happening with that questionable report. But that's a big deal. They still have Elliot Washington and Audavian Collins, but I also think it means now you're going to have a more significant representation from Darius Dixon. Either way, I think if you got somebody who's questionable, Darius Dixon's going to play in this game. So you're now down to a guy who's played well this year, but a freshman corner, and then two co-starters are going to have to carry the load this week. So Penn State in a fine situation, but both of those guys have given up some big plays this year, and I think that just increases the chances that might happen again this week unless they've really locked in and kind of fixed some of the mental issues that have plagued them. Because truthfully, like for both of those guys, they have the talent to play in the NFL. Aditi Collins, 4'3" athlete, sticky cover corner. He can play.
AJ Harris.
His issues are at the catch point. Like he is consistently beat at the catch point. And Elliot Washington is built like a fullback and runs in the 4.3s as well. But has some issues with turning at times and kind of staying in phase is what they call it with the receiver. Some mental mistakes the last couple weeks as well, where he's allowed some of those big plays. So they've got to sharpen those things up. And I don't know, maybe this is an opportunity. Maybe that starting opportunity where they're both the guys on the field gives them a little bit more juice in this game. But I know it's a Michigan State team that everyone's going to kind of dismiss. They have some dangerous elements. Penn State fans on our message board have been dying for Penn State to illegally seduce Nick Marsh into the portal so they could have him on this offense. And that's out there for this game, and I think that's a big matchup. I was expecting A.J. Harris to shadow Nick Marsh and be a guy that was going to be around him a lot of the time, even though they don't actually do that, but moving like on third down, moving in the slot and taking him if necessary. Well,
now it is not the case, but it is the case to go around the Big Ten, discuss other Big Ten teams, including other teams playing in Michigan. We can see the game on the TVs in front of us here at Legend's Restaurant and Bar. So around the Big Ten, powered by Valley View Retirement Community. Games going on yesterday, of course. Oregon beat Minnesota 42-13. It was a drubbing. I don't know if you saw Noah Whittington had a touchdown run where he basically was swallowed up 17 times but broke out continuously because Oregon's got a really big offensive line and people can just shove.
We didn't get ESPN back on our YouTube TV until this morning, so I did miss that one.
Well, they won last night 42-13. Indiana's up now 10-7 just after halftime.
All right.
Indiana does have a ball and is driving right now. Michigan is beating Northwestern 7-3 at Wrigley Field.
That is such a Michigan Northwestern score. They're lining up for a field goal now. It's going to be 7-6 heading into halftime. It is like peak take a nap in the afternoon sort of Big Ten football.
There was there was multiple turnovers already in this game. I know Bryce Underwood went to toss the ball in a pitch. The ball was basically immediately batted out of the air onto the ground for a fumble. It is now, in fact, 7-6 in that game in Wrigley Field. You've got later on today at 3:30 as well, Iowa versus USC, a top 25 matchup there in the Coliseum. Maryland versus Illinois at 3:30. Purdue and Washington at 7. And 7:30 on NBC is UCLA versus Ohio State.
All right.
No Nico Iamaleava in that one. He is out for the game, I believe, as of last night.
Oh, man, that changes a lot.
It means they basically lose their positivity.
That's
because he is UCLA's offense.
Yeah, so that's not great.
It went from bad for them with 0-4 to 3-4 to bad again.
And you got to think like NBC picked that game because they're like, at least Nico Iamaleava is going to be entertaining, right? He's going to like do something that's going to be exciting. And now it's just Ohio State steamrolling UCLA. And it's over before halftime. Sort of situation. Maybe not. Like it depends on how Ohio State wants to play that game.
You know what?
So give us our other games.
We are extending this to other games as well. We're gonna get to the fun one coming up in a moment. Notre Dame is up 21-3 over Pitt.
They got a field goal.
Pitt is driving right now with 1:20 left in the second.
So another field goal.
Navy's up 24-9 at half over USF.
Okay.
So Navy winning there. Their running back Alex Tesha has 5 carries, 106 yards, and a touchdown. That's pretty good.
They're triple option offense. Right? Yeah. Somebody did not practice well for the triple option.
No, they did not.
They did not.
Cincinnati is up 14-10 over Arizona. Games later today: Oklahoma and Alabama play at 3:30. That's 11 versus 4. UCF versus Texas Tech at 3:30, along with NC State and Miami. Georgia Tech versus BC. Of course, the Iowa USC game we mentioned. Virginia looking to rebound against Duke and Manny Diaz and Raleigh-Durham. New Mexico State versus Tennessee. Florida Ole Miss, Utah Baylor, Texas versus Georgia 10 versus 5, TCU versus BYU. But the game going on right now that you were asking about, just before the halftime.
Wow.
27-3, South Carolina, and they are currently at the Texas A&M 23.
Wow.
There is a real chance they get either 30 or 34 points heading into halftime.
Wow.
Mike Elko, there is still a home for you in Happy Valley.
So, I just want to go through these again, and we're going to have our rooting schedule for Penn State head coach search. So, obviously, that's number one.
Oh, boy.
I don't know if it matters at this point, but, it's fun to pretend, right? That's hard to come back from. So if you're the better team, right? And South Carolina does this to at least one team every year.
Yes,
right?
because Lenora Sellers is a NFL caliber quarterback.
Yeah.
Nick Harbour is an incredible receiver.
Yeah.
It
Penn
happens.
State wanted him to play tight end here.
What?
Well, he was
Concepcion? Sellers?
No.
Harbor.
Harbor.
Oh.
They wanted him to play tight end. He was a DN and a tight end in high school. And he's a receiver.
Wow.
He's like Kyle Pitts, but actually playing receiver.
It is just currently 27-3 because Nick Harbour had an 80-yard touchdown catch from Lenora Sellers.
Yeah.
By the way, Dylan Stewart had forced a fumble from Marcel Reed right before the first quarter ended, which is what made it that. Lenora Sellers also has a 50-yard touchdown pass on the day.
Wow.
So he has 2 passes, 130 yards in the 2 of them. Again, we're not good at math here on the show. That's good.
That's good. So let's go through and let's now do our rooting guide for Penn State head coach in waiting. So South Carolina, Texas A&M. We're going to put that as a TBD. That's going the right way you want it, but who knows if it's obviously not going to be it's not going to be Mike Elko.
Yeah, Mike Elko's apparently they got the ball back. I guess somehow I need to find out how because they now have the ball.
We can get that later.
Yeah. Oh, they picked it off on the second play of that last drive. They had 1 play 80-yard touchdown, 1 play no yards, 1 play pick. Now they have the ball at the Texas A&M 5.
Do you think Marcus Freeman is realistically in this conversation?
No.
No? All right,
Marcus Freeman's in the conversation for an NFL job.
Okay.
Not for the Penn State job.
I thought he was a safety. He played linebacker in the NFL. I thought he played safety.
So Marcus Freeman, not in the conversation.
Not really.
And if you think he is, I'm sorry. He's either not leaving Notre Dame or he's going to go to the NFL. That's where he's at because he's got a great situation there. Going on, former Northwestern coach, I guess, Pat Fitzgerald is in kind of the conversation. He's been a name brought up. Northwestern versus Michigan right now. Alex Golesh at USF, they're down 24-9. Bad day to be a Penn State head coaching candidate.
Yeah, and these aren't really the ones you wanted to lose at the moment. Go back up.
Oh, boy.
Rooting guide, go down a little bit more. We got to get Oklahoma, Alabama.
Alabama's at 3:30. That game in Tuscaloosa.
That's in Oklahoma. You're rooting for Oklahoma there.
Because Kalen DeBoer could be out at Alabama. Then coming up later, Georgia Tech. They're playing at 3:30 against BC.
I think you want them to win. You want their losses to come later in the year.
Yes.
You want them to basically lose out of the playoff a little bit later, but you still want them to win.
So that game is going on 3:30. BC is 1-9 on the season. They are 0-6 in the ACC and 1-3 and 1-2.
I do love.
Oh boy.
So we've been talking about how this year hasn't gone great for Penn State. But at the same time, we've been hey, let's just finish out the season without this terrible vibe around the program, and let's enjoy football for a little bit. I do understand and hear how that comes across. At least when Bill O'Brien's yelling at a reporter about how we're positive, we're going to be positive here. It's going to be a positive program. We're excited. I kind of get how it sounds, the toxic positivity of. We're going to be happy about the fact that we're 1-9. Everything's fine. We're building this program.
I have a question. Is it positivity or is it craziness to call a timeout and then say there's no timeout being called? Because that's Lane Kiffin's MO. Lane Kiffin might be auditioning right now at Florida and might be having contract conversations because they play Florida at 7 o'clock in Oxford in Mississippi. So that game is going on at 7.
That is a root for Florida situation. I think that's a root for Florida situation.
Because if Florida wins, they're not going to want Lane Kiffin.
I mean, they should. The funny thing is we're thinking of these things in very toddler sort of terms of if they lose this week, then it's definitely going to swing this. But yes, I think that's also part of it. But also losing those games and falling out of contention to go into the playoff, they have a loss. I think that's important.
You jump to Ohio State, Brian Hartline over there again, as you mentioned, versus UCLA, 7:30 p.m.
They're going to the playoff anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
So there's a lot happening game-wise.
That's it this week.
Last night, Louisville played. They lost to Clemson 20-19.
Yeah.
So
that's
make of that what you will.
Yeah, I just Jeff Brom hasn't really been in it for a while for me, so that's just I would put that on the good for Penn State that he's going to be there.
He is going to be there
if it's a possibility.
Yes, and we are of course here here live on 99.5, 107.5. The Bus, Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3. Streaming live on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. Kyle Left, Thomas Frankar with you here on the show. Driven by Penn State, the Tailgate Show, driven by Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships. Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships celebrating more than 40 years of service to the community. Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships has a vehicle to fit your budget and transportation needs. Home of the $1,000 lowest price guarantee with 20 locations throughout Pennsylvania. And T. Frank, before we go to break to then discuss all of the stuff going on, with Penn State and a mixed score prediction.
Yep.
Special teams for Penn State.
Oh, boy.
I'm a special teams guy. I love it. They've been very up and down as the year has gone.
Yes.
Like, it started off red hot. They were the only unit that was playing positive.
Yeah.
Now, not so much. Kicking with Ryan Barker, still great.
Yep.
That's fine.
Yep.
Gabe Wosu punting, still good. Had sometimes.
Some mistakes.
But very consistently positive.
So I do want to just say, every ball staying out of the end zone seems unrealistic.
Yes.
He has been very consistent and good. And then when you make a couple of mistakes, it feels like this backslide. You don't get 100% of them down inside the 20.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are going to go
out
of the back of the end zone. Unfortunately, it was against a team where you really wanted to beat that team.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
sometimes
continue.
the ball bounces weirdly. And then the kicking and the punt returning teams have been the weird weakness of this team. Nick Singleton was back last week returning kicks.
Yeah.
So he was back there because he, of course, is a lightning rod, and that's how you get him going is just a run, and he can see everything ahead of him, and he can just fly.
Yep.
So that's a positive. At the same time, the punt returning game has been weird, where we saw it in recent weeks. You and I watching this Penn State team, Trevor Pena looked really good. Devontae Ross looked really good.
Yep.
But then all of a sudden, it's fallen off a cliff. And I don't know why. There's no explanation. Devontae Ross has had some muffs. There's been some bad returns from this team.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's based on just what they've got coming at them and the angles they've got or what it is. Either way, special teams have not been superb for this Penn State football team recently in terms of returning the ball for the Penn State football team in terms of kicking and punting. So loop all of that into this conversation as special teams matter. I care about punting and kicking.
So it's interesting. It always feels like with special teams and the punt returner. I asked Phil Parker about this during media day, and I was asking about what is it that makes a good punt return? Because there's a lot of stuff that happens off camera, kind of in the secondary. You don't know what's going on in a passing play because it's not on camera. I imagine there's a lot going on with the return unit, and he actually pointed directly to the decision that the returner makes as the primary thing.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, there's two parts of that. The decision to fair catch it is also a right decision.
Yes.
At times. And that is out of their control, right? Of do they actually have a return, yes or no? And then there's been kind of the mental error of trying too hard. And I think that's the biggest thing is Devontae Ross and Pena, it feels like they want to make a play. And so that's where you have some of those unforced errors from Ross where he drops the ball, doesn't see it through, catches it the wrong spot, and gives a fair catch at the wrong. I just think that there's a bad team's press. And if you don't need a punt return, it's the best time to get a punt return, in my opinion, because if it's we need a big play, we need a big play, we need a big play, you're going to force it.
Yes.
And there has been a little bit of that this year. It feels like sometimes those guys back there are trying to force it. And that's the most expert analysis I've ever given on special teams.
It's some strong analysis, and we're going to get to more analysis and to give our predictions coming up here on the Penn State Tailgate Show, driven by Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships. But we are going to go back, though, again to This Week in Penn State Sports. One more time for the radio audience especially. They didn't get it the first time around, so we're going back to it a second time. So audience listening live right now and watching on the Blue White YouTube channel, you're getting it a second dose, a double dose of This Week in Penn State Sports, powered by Miller's Hoagies.
It's more than just football at Penn State. Here's This Week in Penn State Sports, brought to you by Miller's Hoagies.
Wrestling, hockey, and basketball, oh my. Penn State wrestling returned to action last night in the Bryce Jordan Center, where it kicked off its 2025-26 season against the Oklahoma Sooners. The Nittany Lions are searching for their 15th title in program history. Cale Sanderson's crew is back in action next Sunday in the Black Knight Invitational. Hear that on Wowie Radio. Both women and men's ice hockey were in action last night here in Happy Valley. The women took on the Syracuse Orange, the men the Michigan Wolverines. Women's hockey puck drop was at 1 o'clock today, while the men are in action at 6 p.m. tonight. Hear that game on 93.7 3WZ. Men and women's basketball also find themselves in play over the weekend, but on different days. Mike Rhodes and the men tipped off a short while ago in Philadelphia against LaSalle. Hear that on It's Pop Radio. Carolyn Keeger's group is in action tomorrow on It's Pop Radio at 2 p.m. against St. Joseph's, also in the city of brotherly love. Defending NCAA champion women's volleyball is 5 games away from the end of the regular season. Katie Schumacher-Colley and volleyball are set to take on the Ohio State Buckeyes tomorrow in Rec Hall for Military Appreciation Day. Safe to say the big sports season has arrived in Happy Valley. For a full broadcast schedule for all of Penn State sports, head to 7mmsports.com. That's This Week in Penn State Sports. Back to the Tailgate Show in a moment.
Give me your prediction.
31-17. You know, all of us picked Penn State. And,
Oh, boy.
yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. You know, that's really interesting to me that all of us picked Penn State. That seems like that's going to come back to haunt us to some degree, especially this season. But I do feel like we saw some momentum and some growth by Penn State's defensive line last week. And you know, maybe, you know, as far as Knowles and what works, they're figuring some things out. So there's no reason to think that they can't continue to get some tackles for loss, a handful of sacks, and really put Michigan State behind the sticks. I don't think it'll be the 7 or so that Minnesota had, but that momentum has to continue. It has to continue, and you would think that, at least when you look at their remaining opponents, Michigan State's the best to continue that momentum, consistency, and confidence, maybe as much as anything. And then I like the fact that Michigan State has been, for Penn State, I like the fact for Grunkmeyer maybe, that Michigan State, at least on the defenses that Penn State's faced this year in the conference, is certainly the worst when it comes to, you know, average yards per catch and things like that. So there should be availabilities there to take care of that, I would say 7 to 12 yard range, right? Which we haven't seen a ton this year. The defenses he's faced so far in Iowa, Indiana, and Ohio State are substantially better with that. So you would think that they'd be able to open up things, but still got to get those 30+ touches to Nick and Katron. 1 or 2 breaks it. Should help a long way. But again, I'll just come back to the fact that everyone's picking Penn State in 2025. That's worked out well for everybody.
Fitz, what is your thought here?
Yeah, like I said, cautiously optimistic after the last couple of weeks because, you know, you kind of elevated your play to match 2 of the better teams in the country and then one of the toughest places to play in the country that you should have won that game. And I think that's probably the most frustrating part coming out of the Indiana game is you're looking at, man, that Iowa game was there for the taking and they did not take it. And all these games that they've lost have been, you know, have ended up close, at least, with the exception of the Ohio State game. So you've got positivity that you can take from that thing. And it's okay to think like that. I know it's not the season anybody wanted or predicted or anything like that, but you can look at these things not just in one giant glob. Like the UCLA Northwestern teams are kind of different than the Iowa, Ohio State, Indiana teams on Penn State side. So I've got Penn State 33-15. I think they're going to have an opportunity to get after the quarterback, whichever quarterback it is. I also think that it's insane that it's supposed to be 62 degrees in East Lansing in mid-November. Yeah. Because that, like, you think about the thunder snow that they've played in and all that kind of stuff out there, and that doesn't seem to be an issue. I mean, I think there's rain in the forecast for spotty showers or something like that, but certainly did not expect that. Penn State's played in some actually pretty decent weather this year. But I just think that Penn State's got a real opportunity to sort of vault themselves ahead. I probably, 18 points, a big win. That's probably too much, but I got ahead of myself, got excited.
It is now time here on 99.5, 107.5 The Bus, Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3, streaming live on the Blue by Illustrated YouTube channel, live at Legends Restaurant and Bar at the Penn State Hotel and Conference Center on the Penn State Tailgate Show, driven by Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships for our predictions. Powered on up, as already mentioned, Mr. Roger Corey, who is in East Lansing right now for powered by Metzler Forest Products Landscape Center. Thomas Frank Carr, sir, last week I was off by a lot. I predicted a blowout.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen.
It didn't.
And then I was sick, and so I couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there wallowing in my misery.
Uh-huh.
But this week, you said a blowout could happen. What is your prediction, sir? Penn State, Michigan State in East Lansing.
Okay, so A.J. Harris, Antoine Belgrave Shorter are both either out or questionable. Chaz Coleman is out. So I'm gonna give Michigan State a little more than I did in my official prediction from earlier this week. I'm gonna go 31-24 Penn State. And I think that Penn State's going to be able to do what they want on offense. They're still going to control the game with the defensive line, but there are more opportunities now for some big plays if A.J. Harris isn't out there. Penn State still has a decent secondary from a depth perspective. I don't think playing Darius Dixon's the worst thing in the world. He's played well this year, but I just think that now that's a little more narrow because Penn State could have had a complete defensive performance. It's a little bit in the air when you don't have one of your best pass rushers and your best corner. So I'm going to give him a couple more points.
So this is your official
The official
prediction.
list, yes.
The most official
The
prediction.
officialist prediction.
You said that number. You said what, 31?
31.
31? I like that number. I had a number in my head. I'm going 34-24.
Okay.
I think
Extra
a similar
field goal.
number here. I think an extra field goal. I think the Penn State offense gets rolling. I think Nick Singleton's going to have another 60-yard touchdown today. That's the big thing. I think he's going to have another one. He's going to rip it off somewhere. I don't know if it's going to be a catch, a run, a kick return, something. Nick Singleton's going to go off today. Penn State is going to win the game, and interim head coach Terry Smith gets his first win as a head coach, which is really cool and special.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to happen. And we want to see happiness. We like joy and positivity. And
I'd like to see Ethan Grunkmeyer play some football.
Yeah.
That's the thing I want from this game for kind of like my own selfish things is to learn a little bit more about Ethan Grunkmeyer.
What's he got in the locker?
Yeah, because like we saw him basically managed in the first game. Well, they tried to let him play in the first game, and that didn't go great. So I do want to say, like, I understand Andy Kolnicki's kind of skittishness and desire to mitigate the quarterback's impact after he threw a couple interceptions against Iowa. That being said, I was not a fan of how they used him against Ohio State when it was not effective. Like you were shortening your own life support. Then we got to see against a competent, good defense what he could do. Now I want to see the full game plan. Let him be a part of the offense for 4 quarters and see if he can, put up some numbers because there is an opportunity for that and force the defense to make some mistakes. And I don't mean by overly designed, tailored plays. I mean just like run some really good, as Terry Smith said, let's run some great pass concepts and get players open the traditional way to then allow the quarterback to look good and the offense to function. And I think that's the way you can get everybody feeling like they're involved as well. Because we mentioned like this has been a dysfunctional season from the depth of players on offense. They wanted to get involved and who actually got involved.
Yes. Crazy. Doing normal things to like actually get players open. That's crazy.
Yeah, like
crazy.
Traditional football is good for works for a reason.
Let's do the footballs.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Is let's do the football games. And spoiler, they might do it today. They're in East Lansing. That game is coming up in a little over an hour and a half. By the way, for those wondering at home, we already kind of mentioned it and discussed it. South Carolina is now up 30-3 at halftime over Texas A&M. I just wanted to put one more bow on it because Marcel Reed threw a pick in the end zone, then 80-yard touchdown to Nick Harbor, then another pick, and then a field goal before halftime. So in a minute, he threw 2 interceptions, and South Carolina scored 10 points.
Yeah, the middle
just the middle 80 seconds.
Yeah, not even.
The middle 80 seconds.
That is such a rough thing. And this is, if there's another thing to like tie this back to Penn State football this year, one of the biggest swings that this team had from last year to this year is that middle 8 of the final 4 minutes of the second quarter to the first 4 minutes of the third quarter. Last year, they were one of the best teams in the Big Ten. In the first year under Andy Kolnicki, they were one of the best teams at executing at crunch time to either expand a lead or close a gap when you were down. They had the most points and all those things. This year, they've been terrible. And you should see – I'd like to see a little bit of Ethan Grunkmeyer trying to do that today.
Yes, and next week we will see you live outside of the Bryce Jordan Center in Beaver Stadium, where we will be for Penn State versus Nebraska. No kickoff time yet. We'll find that out tonight. Kyle F., Thomas Frank Carr here on the bus, on Bigfoot Country Legends, on the Blue Widows YouTube channel. Shout out to all of you for getting involved, listening, joining us here at Legends Restaurant and Bar at the Penn State Hotel and Conference Center on the Penn State Tailgate Show, driven by Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships. We're going to throw it on over for the radio audience to Steve Jones, Jack Ham in East Lansing, Penn State, Michigan State.